Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we're going to be looking at a brand new, updated 53-man roster projection after training camp. Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco took the boys out to Costa Mesa and had a beautiful practice there. 11 days spent from, July 20th to August 7th out there. Built a lot of team chemistry. I think a big winner here, honestly, is Antonio Pierce and Telesco for going out there and doing that, because based on the conversations I've had with some Raiders players, they loved it. They thought it was a great team bonding experience, and it sounds like every single year the Raiders are probably going to do something very similar to that. So what we're going to be looking at here on today's show is we're going to go through from 1 all the way down to 53, the 53 players that I believe are going to end up making this team. I'll show you all the depth charts, show you where these guys are ranked. But to me, the Raiders, we got a game up against the Minnesota Vikings on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And when these cuts actually have to get down, August 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And training camp's important. The offseason's important. But what these guys are going to do in the preseason, I think, is really going to change some of the projections that I have. So I wanted to be able to make this video before the Raiders preseason happened, just to show you how different it is now compared to after the Raiders preseason. And I know that the Raiders are going up against the Vikings, and here's the thing. I wish I was athletic enough. I wish I was talented enough to be able to put on a helmet, put on some cleats, put on some shoulder pads, and go out there and hit somebody at Allegiant Stadium. But you know what? I'm here on YouTube, so I'm going to compete in any way that I can because I'm a competitive person. And we're in a sub battle right now up against our Vikings channel, and it's subs this week. We're playing the Vikings this week, so we got to take them down, and it's a close lead right now. I want to put the nail in the coffin. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and make sure you're tuned in on Saturday when we go live. I'm giving away a Hall of Fame Raiders player signed helmet. Just saying. Let's look at the Raiders quarterback room here. Aidan O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, both QB1s, followed by Anthony Brown, Carter Bradley. I decided to keep 3 QBs on my 53-man, and I got to switch it up here a little bit because recently I've been talking a lot about Carter Bradley, saying this could be somebody that could potentially make the roster. Based off the notes that I've received from Raiders training camp, it's just not going to happen. Gardner Minshew, Aidan O'Connell, Anthony Brown, these are going to be the 3 QBs. I'll also say this, though. I got to a point in this 53-man where I was like, man, oh man, I wish I had an extra roster spot. I might entertain an idea going on a little bit later after the preseason doing a 53-man where I only keep Gardner, I only keep Aidan, and I put Anthony Brown on the practice squad because with the new NFL rules, you can promote that other quarterback to be that third guy just in case. I think AB's done some good, but I don't know if any other team would try to claim him off waivers if he was on our practice squad. Let's go to the running back room now. It's Zamir White, Alexander Mattison, Dylan Laube, all impressed a little bit, but I don't think that we can totally forget about Ameer Abdullah and some of the versatility that he provides for our offense and our special teams unit. And this is going to be a team that I do think wants to run the football, but here's the thing. You only need to carry 4 backs, and it's going to be the Zamir White on first and second down show. Obviously, Mattison in this wide zone is going to get some of his opportunities as well. And then Laube and Abdullah, third down backs, kick return, punt returners, helping out on special teams. All of those guys are going to make some important plays. I almost think of like Laube and Ameer Abdullah playing like a Jalen Richard type of role. Let's go to the wide receiver unit now, and there's a lot to be able to unpack here, and I'm also going to just say it from the jump. I have Brock Bowers listed as a tight end. You're not going to see him listed as a receiver on today's show. But to me, and this is where it was tough, okay? And I still want the Raiders to go out and add another talent at wide receiver. I think this is where we're a little bit, lacking in a sense, and this is why I decided to keep 6 receivers, okay? To me, if I'm the silver and black, I'm picking up another receiver, whether I got to trade for one, whether I got to sign somebody, and I'm going to have them compete because Davante, Jakobi, Tre Tucker, DJ Turner, they're all locks to make this team. Quite frankly, and I'm going to say it right now, DJ Turner is a lock to make this Raiders 53-man roster. Outside of that, though, like Jalen Guyton, Ramel Keyton, Keaton's been impressing a little bit. Been creating some eyes around them, but I would like the Raiders to go out and add a little bit more talent, and if they add a little bit more talent, if they could only keep 5 receivers, personally, I think that would be the better way to go. I kept 6 just because of the lack there of depth, and because I anticipate DJ Turner and Tucker to get a little bit of work there on special teams. So we got the Raiders and Vikings game on Saturday. I'm going to be rocking a Raiders jersey, and for those of you that are watching our live show here on Thursday, guess what? whoever is the MVP of today's show, which right now at the time I'm making this video is Chance, I'm going to rock a Chance jersey on Saturday. If you're rocking a jersey on Saturday, let me know who you're wearing. Are you going to go with Davante? You go with Jeffrey Kreischer? Are you going to go with somebody like a Howie Long, a Bo Jackson, maybe a Rich Gannon? I don't know. Any jersey. I want to know who you're rocking on Saturday. Let's go to the tight end room. Maybe you're wearing a Brock Bowers jersey. That's been one I've been trying to hunt down for a while. And Bowers, Michael Mayer, Harrison Bryant, the Raiders listed 12 personnel set as their original depth chart, which featured both Mayer and Bowers as a starter. And, I think I've been a little bit more of the unpopular person to say that I believe that this team ends up keeping 4 tight ends at least because I knew how much that they were going to use 12 personnel. So with that being said, I got Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Harrison Bryant, and Zach Gentry. Nothing has changed. I think I have done this show maybe 4 or 5 different times this offseason, and I want to say every single time I've had 4 tight ends making this team. Why? I've known all along how important 12 personnel is going to be to this organization. What's really going to be interesting is if they decide to add another due to the fact that they're a little bit worried about their wide receiver depth. Let's go to the offensive line now, the big guys up the middle. Kolton Miller, Jackson Powers-Johnson have been battling injuries the entire offseason, and this is probably the spot where I got put in the mental pickle the most because I'm like, I want the Raiders to have plenty of depth and plenty of versatility, but when I went through and I looked through the rest of the roster, I had a little, mental snag where I was like, I got to keep that guy. I got to keep that guy. So you know what? I'm going to go a little bit risky here, but I have the Raiders keeping 8, only 8 offensive linemen. So hear me out. The reason why I'm keeping 8 is because DJ Glaze is a backup, can play right tackle. He can also play your offensive guard positions. Cody Whitehair, he can play your offensive guard positions, also can play center. Jackson Powers-Johnson, guard, center. Andres Pete, left guard, left tackle, has also got some experience on the right side. Dylan Parham, very versatile player, can play a bunch of spots on the offensive line. Andre James can play a bunch of spots on the offensive line. Darren Munford can play a bunch of spots on the offensive line. So because of the versatility that literally every single person on screen has, because funny enough, every player that I'm keeping there out of those 8 offensive linemen have played at least multiple positions in the NFL or in college at some point in their career. And due to that versatility, I know there's some injury concerns out there, but you can keep a few extra guys on your practice squad. Maybe you got to elevate somebody. I had to keep 8 in order to keep all the other players that I wanted to on the defensive side of the football. So coming up here next, which defenders made my 53-man roster? I'll tell you here in just a moment. If you haven't downloaded our sponsor, Game Time, what are you waiting for? To me, there's 2 types of people in the world. There's people that pee in the shower, and there's people that lie about peeing in the shower. It's just like there's 2 types of people with Game Time. Either you're smart and you download the Game Time app, or I think you just aren't a smart person if you don't download the Game Time app. So use Game Time. You can get it for concerts, Raiders tickets, and a whole lot more. So Nation, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. With the Raiders preseason and regular season right around the corner, Game Time is the perfect app for Raider Nation. And I love their last-minute deals, the all-in pricing, seat views, and that lowest price guaranteed. So if you're watching this show right now and you're like, you know what, I would love to be able to go to a Raiders game. Mitch, I would love to be able to go to a concert in Las Vegas. Mitch, I would love to go to an event, maybe a magic show in Las Vegas. Like, I literally think that Game Time was created for people that are going out to Vegas. Because if you go out to Vegas with all these plans, you're probably going to cancel a plan or 2. I mean, I feel like every time I go out to Vegas, Chuggs and I, every time we go out to Vegas and we have a bunch of stuff planned, we're always like, we can't make everything.
There's nothing worse than if you're trying to buy tickets from some sketchy guy off the strip. You don't want to do that.
Dude.
They're selling tickets in
It's
one hand.
110 degrees, he's sweating, you're like...
They're selling tickets in one hand, and they're handing out those sketchy business cards in the other. You don't want to do that.
This guy.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You know what I'm talking about? That guy. And you don't want to do that. So, like, I think when you go out to Vegas, you have an open mind, and you're like, all right, I want to go out for a Raiders game, but everything else on my calendar is open, and if something pops up, I'll go to it. Well, that's why I love Game Time, because you could be like hanging out with you and your buddies, and you're like, all right, I got nothing to do right now at 7 o'clock. Go on the Game Time app, and you're like, shit, there's a concert. Oh, shit, the Blue Man Group's here. Oh, like, there's an event going on, a magician show. And you're like, wait, these tickets were originally $100, but because they don't want to have empty seats, so they just want to give them away because they know people are going to buy food, drinks, all that kind of stuff. Dude, you can get tickets that are unbelievably cheap.
2 shows I saw in Vegas using the Game Time app, amazing. Adele. And then Shin Lim,
Yeah,
the magician from America's Got Talent, both saw, using the Game Time app, both amazing.
Yeah, and if you're going to go see Adele, you need to save the money on Chuggs Rules side. Game times for Adele. Shout out to Chuggs for getting us set up there. Use the links down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, let's keep it moving here. When you look at the Raiders' defensive end group, there's a lot of different moving parts here, and I've talked a lot about, some of these younger guys, maybe like a Ron Stone Jr. could potentially make the team. It's also important to note that David Agoa automatically makes it because of the International Pathway Program player. He won't count against the 53-man. The Silver and Black are just able to keep him on the team. Here's where I got a little bit different, though, and this is kind of where I was talking about before, where I was like, man, I want to be able to keep 8 offensive linemen. That way I can keep an extra defensive guy, and I'm going to keep Charles Snowden. And this has been somebody that I have listed as been a winner at training camp, has been a solid player. He also comes from the Chicago Bears, so he's like 6'7", has shown just good versatility, being able to be like a big outside guy, create a little bit of havoc there. And, this is a defense that they wanted somebody long, lanky, and athletic. Again, we had Chandler Jones, not Carl Charles Snowden, Chandler Jones from a talent perspective, but he's like that big athletic freak out there. So when you have Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson, Janarius Robinson, and Charles Snowden, I think it just helps you out a little bit more. And when you see the defensive tackles I kept, you're going to go, all right, that makes a little bit of sense there. So now let's go to the DTs. And historically, I have been somebody that likes to keep a lot of defensive tackles because I'm somebody that believes in you got to be able to win up front, and if you don't win up front, you're just wasting everybody's time. So when I show y'all that I decided to keep only 4 defensive tackles, I know some of y'all are going to be like, well, wait a minute, Mitch, let's hit that panic button. The reason why I kept Charles Snowden, and it's the same reason why I was talking about all that versatility on the offensive line, is because I believe Tyree Wilson is going to play defensive tackle and he's going to play defensive end. So instead of looking at it as defensive end and defensive tackle, I'm looking at it as defensive line, and I'm keeping 9 players, where I have 5 defensive ends with Tyree Wilson, just like I have 5 defensive tackles with Tyree Wilson. So, I thought about doing that even with the wide receivers, tight ends with Brock Bauer, but due to the fact that there's some other players that I believe are going to end up making this squad, I wanted to go about it and do it this way. So here's my question with Tyree, because I think with Wilson being drafted number 7 overall, not having the rookie season that a lot of us were hoping for, battled some injuries last season, he's somebody that has got a microscope over him this preseason, this season in general. Do you think that he's going to play more snaps at defensive end or at defensive tackle? I got to give Chuggs his flowers. I think he was the first one on this train way last year and said, I think you should play him at defensive tackle. And now he's getting some work at DT. Let me know down in the comments section more snaps at defensive end or defensive tackle this season for Tyree Wilson. I do think that he's going to get some work at DT, but I do really, truly think that he's going to get more opportunities at defensive end. The Raiders, in terms of that depth chart, John Jenkins is over him. I do think Byron Young's going to be over him. Obviously, Adam Butler as well on top of that. And there's going to be a rotation with Max, Malcolm, and Tyree. A lot of rotations moving out through in and out. If you told me right now Wilson gets some around 500 snaps, I would say 300 of those at defensive end. 200 of those are at defensive tackle. Before we get into the final parts here of our defense and who we're keeping, I do want to tell y'all that we are doing a 2024 kickoff event in North Carolina, and guess what? I'm excited to show y'all what this place looks like because it is flipping beautiful. So it is called the Back Den Bar and Grill, which you can see in the video here. It's going to be an outside indoor type of environment. Chuggs and I, we're going to be live here for the Raiders and Chargers football game. We're going to be here September 7th and September 8th. September 8th, though, is when you can join our free watch party, which if you want to get tickets for, you can go to chatsports.com/week1. We're going to be rocking here. It's going to be a bar, a lot of TV screens. You're going to be able to have a great time. You're going to be able to join the show live up there with us. It's free for all family ages, doesn't matter how old you are. And then on top of that, and then on Saturday, the day before, Chuggs and I, we're going to be playing a little Top Golf in Durham, which I just looked at the other day. Our Airbnb is really, really close to that Top Golf, so we'll be able to get there pretty easily. You can enter the raffle and win Saturday, September 7th. That link is chatsports.com/topgolf. So not only are we going to be doing a free watch party on that Sunday, where we're doing tons and tons of prizes. If you also want to have some food, some drinks with my dad, I know he's going to be there at Topgolf. Again, I'm terrible at golf, but I'm down to have a good time. Both of those links are available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Come hang out with Jeremy and I. We're going to be doing the watch party. We're going to be hanging out for Topgolf. If you enjoy Raiders Friday happy hour, Thursday happy hour, if you enjoy Raiders game day, well, how about this? Pull up, join us in person. Let's go to the linebacker room now for the Silver and Black. And when the Raiders listed their starting linebackers, they listed two. They listed Davante Adams, Robert Spillane, and then they have, kind of everybody else filling in there. For our graphic standpoint, I think it just looks better when I show middle linebacker and then two outside linebackers. And I just anticipate that this is going to be a team that ends up keeping 5 LBs. And I look at it because you're keeping that other linebacker from a stance of helping out on special teams. With these new kick return rules, there's a lot of unknowns that are kind of being thrown out there. And Tom McMahon, Raiders special teams coach, wants to be able to have more linebackers because the kick return game is a lot closer to running the football than it is like the old special teams rules, which is why I'm keeping Amari Burney. And I haven't heard a lot about Amari. I'm going to be honest. I know that he's a good athlete, and I know that he can be a good gunner, I think, in the NFL. But in terms of outside of that, that's really all that I know about Amari, right? So I'm keeping Spillane, Divine Diablo, Luke Masterson still seems to be slotted in there as the linebacker 3. Tommy Eichenberg, though, continues to impress this coaching staff. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's got it up here. And because Robert Spillane's also kind of that same hybrid of same type of linebacker, I think that's why the Raiders went out and got Eichenberg in the 5th round. Let's go to the cornerback room. And cornerback room is another room that the more and more training camp has gone down, and I keep getting asked, Mitch, are the Raiders going to sign a corner? I don't think that they are at this point simply because of how well Jacorian Bennett, Nate Hobbs, and Jack Jones have looked. Now, sure, they're not going up against the best wide receiver talent with Davante Adams being out currently waiting for the birth of his baby boy, but this is still a team that's got a lot of confidence, got a lot of swagger, and I see them keeping 6 corners. And if the Raiders decided that, maybe Brandon Facyson isn't the right guy, if you go out and you sign another corner, Fayson's the dude getting cut. If the Silver and Black move on from the veteran corner who's 27 years old, you save somewhere close to just about $2.6 million, which maybe is not a lot of money in NFL terms, but it is some money to at least just go out there and stack up your bread, and that way you can just get ready for another move, maybe another potential extension. Let's go to the safety group, one of the best groups that the Raiders have. I really, really, really tried to keep Jaden Grant on this team, and I actually even flirted with the idea of keeping Grant over somebody like Chris Smith. And for a lot of people that watch this show, you'll know that I've had Smith off my 53-man. I did get a text message the other day that said, hey, you're too low on Chris. And then literally the following day, 24 hours later, the Raiders put out their depth chart, which had Smith over Tre Taylor. They're going to keep Tre. They might keep Chris Smith. Now, again, I think for Smith, he's still got to go out there and he's got to prove it during the preseason. Isaiah's been a hell of a player. Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps. There is a clear-cut top 3 safeties, and then there is a tier break between Tre Taylor and Chris Smith for being able to get on the field. You're probably going to see these guys work a little bit more, though, in special teams. And then, speaking of special teams, let's go to Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, Jacob Bobenmoyer, and that is my 53-man roster after Raiders training camp, which it's kind of mind-blowing that training camp's already done, that the offseason's already over. I'm making this video, and it's already almost the preseason action. Football's just right around the corner. It is crazy, crazy, crazy. And every time I do this show, I'll go back and I'll watch this video and I'll be like, man, I can't believe I left Dalton Wagner off that list. Man, I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt for leaving Tulu Griffin off that list. Man, are they sure they're not going to keep somebody like Jordan Meredith? I do it every single time. Let me know down below, who did I leave off my list? I'll see what you guys have to say, and we'll go from there. Now, if you made it this far in the show, always remember that you can follow me on IG and on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365. And during game days, I do a lot of live tweeting, and I tweet with emotion. I'm going to warn you right now, just because I'm tweeting it on a game day doesn't mean that's exactly how I feel when I am in a right state of mind. I'm a Raider fan, whether people want to believe it or not, and when shit happens in a game, whether it's preseason, regular season, I am a person that I react and I tweet raw. Why? Because that's, to me, how you should want a content creator to be. I want their raw, real reaction. I don't want it to get it an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later. No. So if you're going to follow me on IG and Twitter, I'm just letting you know, you're going to get the real me during the season. You're going to like it. You might not like it, but always know this. I'm a Raider through and through. I bleed silver and black like all y'all. It's just my emotions. You guys get to see live here on social media.